Yeah, please take your seat. The show is going to begin, so please take your seat. Otherwise, we cannot start our show. Thank you.
The dragon, a sacred creature of ancient China, symbolizes strength, power, dignity, and determination. Dragons represent wisdom and intelligence. They are revered as wise and enlightened beings with great knowledge and insight. As the dragon dance unfolds before our eyes, we are reminded of the importance of seeking wisdom and embracing the lessons that life presents us. Its vibrant colors and synchronized movements are enveloped in the spirit of protection and auspiciousness that the dragon represents. Today, we begin our celebration on the new page of the Chinese Canadian Museum with a dragon dance, blessing us with wisdom, fortune, and energy.
龍係中國古代神聖嘅動物，象徵住力量、權威、尊嚴同決心。龍代表住智慧同埋聰敏，被尊崇為擁有深奧知識同洞察力嘅靈性之物。當龍喺我哋眼前舞動起嚟嘅時候，正係提醒我哋要尋求生命中嘅智慧，同埋接納生活上嘅經歷，以帶嚟運氣並驅走黑暗。舞龍鮮豔嘅色彩同埋充滿力量嘅動作，象徵住呢一份保護及吉祥之意。我哋以舞龍開始華裔博物館嘅新篇章，祈願為我哋帶嚟傳統智慧、財富以及活力。
Ladies and gentlemen, honorable guests, welcome to the official opening ceremony of the Chinese Canadian Museum. Please welcome our Masters of Ceremony today, Senior Radio and Television Program Host, Miss Mary Lowe, and Olympic gold medalist, Mr. Patrick Chan.
Hello， 剛才呢一個十分之精彩嘅舞龍表演啊，亦都寓意住一個充滿能量嘅開始。各位來賓大家好，剛才看到一個十分精彩的舞龍的表演，以代表着一個充滿能量的開始，對吧 Patrick？
Good morning everyone, honored guests, and Mary, my partner today. I am delighted to be a part of this amazing event, opening ceremony of the Chinese Canadian Museum.
係啊 Patrick 啊，咁啊其實咧咁多位嘅嘉賓，咁多位尊貴嘅嘉賓在場啦，咁我哋都好榮幸咧可以同大家一齊咧就係見證住華裔博物館嘅開幕禮嘅喎。
The Chinese Canadian Museum serves as a platform to celebrate the rich cultural heritage of families like mine who as immigrants worked tirelessly, overcoming countless obstacles to lay the foundation for my success and allowing me to chase my dreams. Their sacrifices, resilience, and unwavering support have instilled in me a deep appreciation for my Chinese roots and a drive to make them proud. The museum's opening not only honors our collective past, but also inspires me to contribute to the future and empowering future generations of Chinese Canadians.
好同意 Patrick 咁講，其實咧我自己都係移民嚟到加拿大呢一度啦。咁嚟到呢一度之後咧，覺得整個社區有好多唔同嘅機會，政府或者係好多方面咧，亦都有不同嘅支持，令到我哋可以做自己想做嘅事情。咁喺呢一度咧，我哋已經當咗加拿大呢一個係屬於我哋一個嘅屋企，同埋去到外國嘅時候咧，人哋問我你係邊個國籍啊、邊度人啊，我都會好自豪咁話俾人聽 ，I am Canadian 。
The Chinese Canadian Museum will provide a meaningful and transformative experience for all, connecting Canadians to the diverse and eclectic stories and contributions of Chinese Canadians past and present, with an eye to the future. The museum's goal is to foster respect, understanding, inclusion, collaboration, and serve as a place where people can gather to bridge cultures, communities, and generations.
華裔博物館係加拿大一個非凡同埋矚目、積極而活躍嘅新文化機構，成立喺現今嘅社會，為所有嘅族裔尋求尊重同埋共融嘅時代。
CCM will elevate Chinese Canadian voices and engage with diverse communities while recognizing the many who have contributed significantly to the growth of the province and country.
華裔博物館提升加拿大華人的聲音，並與多元的社區互動，同時也表揚那些對省和國家的發展做出重大貢獻的人。華裔博物館將會成為一個對於社會有重要貢獻的文化機構。
CCM will also share the stories of perseverance and contributions of Chinese Canadians and the shared history with Indigenous communities.
華裔博物館亦都會分享加拿大華人堅韌不拔同埋貢獻嘅故事，以及同原住民社區共享嘅歷史。
The Chinese Canadian Museum is located on the traditional, unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations who have lived here as the original stewards of these lands for thousands of years. We had arranged for Squamish Nation Hereditary Chief Ian Campbell and Musqueam Cultural Representative Vanessa Campbell on behalf of Elder Larry Grant and Chief Wayne Sparrow to join us to provide the territorial welcome. Unfortunately, due to some unforeseen circumstances, they send their regrets and could not be here with us this morning. We value and uplift the interconnected histories and experiences of Indigenous peoples and Chinese Canadians. We invite you to witness the stories we have prepared in the museum, including an incredible commissioned 5-foot aluminum artwork you will see in the front lobby called Embracing Diversity by Musqueam artist Susan Point and her son Thomas Cannell.
今天各位聚集于马斯琴、史过米述和斯里华图原住民族的传统祖先魏各让的土地上，那这些土地是数千年之前他们来到这里的原住民负责维护的。我们本来安排了史过米述的酋长 Ian Campbell 和马斯琴文化代表 Vanessa Campbell 代表长老 Larry Grant 和酋长 Wayne Sparrow 一同出席今天的开幕典禮。可是由於發生了特別的情況，他們表示遺憾，今天早上沒辦法跟我們共同出席。我哋今日聚集喺馬斯琴、史哥米殊同埋斯里華圖原住民族嘅傳統祖先未割讓嘅領土上面，而呢一啲嘅土地係數千年前嚟到呢一度嘅原住民負責維護嘅。咁我哋本來就安排咗史哥米殊嘅世襲酋長 Ian Campbell 同埋馬斯琴文化代表 Vanessa Campbell 代表長老 Larry Grant 同埋酋長 Wayne Sparrow 一同出席嘅。咁但係好可惜，因為由於發生咗某啲特別嘅情況，佢哋今日就嚟唔到出席。不過佢哋都好希望就係今日我哋呢一個嘅開幕典禮能夠成功。我哋重視並強調原住民同埋加拿大華裔之間嘅相互關聯嘅歷史同埋經驗，誠意邀請你去到博物館觀賞我哋精心準備嘅故事，其中包括咗一件特別創作嘅5英尺鋁質嘅藝術品， 你將會喺大堂嗰度咧就會見到㗎啦。呢一個藝術品叫做擁抱多元性，作者咧就係馬斯琴藝術家 Susan Point 同埋佢嘅仔 Thomas
Canal。Mary, what a turnout today.
Yeah.
We have, I think we have over 300 guests attending today. A lot of them traveling to Vancouver to come and see this grand opening. We have folks from Toronto, Ottawa, Saskatoon, Calgary, Nanaimo, Victoria, even Portland and San Francisco.
Wow.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
係啊，好似頭先 Patrick 咁講啦，今日我哋現場咧有超過300位嘅貴賓，咁啊當中咧都嚟自唔同嘅地方嘅，譬如話有多倫多啦、渥太華啦、沙斯卡通、卡加里、納內莫、域多里、波特蘭，甚至乎三藩市都有。好多謝晒你哋咧專程今日嚟到參與嘅 ，Thank you。
The Chinese Canadian Museum has been very fortunate to have received support from all 3 levels of government. We have many elected officials, but first let me acknowledge Federal Minister Mary Ng, Premier David Eby, Minister Lana Popham, and Mayor Ken Sim, who will be giving us their remarks shortly. We also have Senators Yuan Paul Wu, Yona Martin, Mobina Jaffer, and retired Senator Dr. Vivian Poi。
華語博物館好榮幸得到3級政府嘅支持，咁亦都得到好多官員嘅支持。咁啊特別要感謝加拿大聯邦部長伍鳳儀、卑詩省省長尹大衛、卑詩省廳長布限尼同埋溫哥華市長沈官健，佢哋稍後時間呢亦都會發表一啲嘅講話嘅。我哋仲有參議員胡元豹、Yona Martin 同埋 Mobina Jaffer， 以及係退休參議員李德偉博士。華裔博物館很榮幸得到了3級的政府，還有就是多位的官員的支持。我們特別要感謝加拿大聯邦部長伍鳳儀、卑詩省省長윤大衛、卑詩省廳長布賢尼以及溫哥華市市長沈關健，他們稍後呢會發表講話。那我們還有參議員胡元豹、Yona Martin、Mobina Jaffer 以及退休的參議員李德惠博士。
Could I ask all the elected officials to stand and be recognized? Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in giving them a round warm of applause.
多謝晒今日出席嘅各位政府官員，大家俾熱烈嘅掌聲佢哋。
So no Mary.
而今日咧，各位官員咧稍後時間會發表嘅演詞咧，一個翻譯版本咧，大家都可以喺長刊裏邊咧就係睇得到嘅。那稍後呢，我們官員發表的演詞有一個翻譯的版本，大家可以在長刊裏面可以找得到。
The province of British Columbia has been the earliest and biggest supporter of CCM. A commitment was made in 2017 to establish a Chinese Canadian museum, and over these past 6 years, the province has invested more than $48 million to establish the museum, provide pivotal support in the planning phases, the purchase of the Wingsang building, and to support museum renovations and ongoing operating costs. We could not be here today without this vision and commitment from the province.
卑詩省喺好早期開始，一直以嚟咧都非常支持華裔博物館嘅。喺2017年，省府咧作出咗成立華裔博物館嘅承諾，並且喺過去6年投資咗4850萬加元嚟到建立呢一座博物館嘅。無論喺規劃階段、買入博物館建築物，以及係博物館嘅翻新同埋運營成本方面，都提供咗好關鍵性嘅支持。卑詩省一直以來都非常支持華裔博物館。在2017年，省府做出了成立華裔博物館的承諾，並且在過去的6年投資了4850萬的加元建立博物館。無論在規劃的階段、購入博物館的建築物、博物館的翻新，以及基於這個運營成本上，都提供了關鍵性的支持。
May I now invite the Honourable David Eby, Premier of BC, to say a few words.
跟住落嚟，我哋有請卑詩省省長尹大偉為我們致辭。有請卑詩省省長尹大偉為我們致辭。
Oh, like that music. Thank you very much, everybody. It's so wonderful to be here with you today in the sun, celebrating the remarkable accomplishments of so many people who are here in the audience and people who couldn't join us. It is such an honor for me to be here representing the government of British Columbia on the territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. I was interested to see how our MCs were going to handle it. I mean, usually at an event like this, you recognize dignitaries who are here, but what do you do when everyone in the audience is a dignitary? How do you make sure? So that was very well handled, I thought. There are a lot of people that weren't recognized because of the number of people who contributed to this project. And I want to recognize you and say thank you. I know this was a huge community effort. I see in the front row Grace Wong, and Grace is chair of the board as champion of this project with the community. So many community members. I wanted to specifically thank you, Grace, you and your family for your time, for your energy, for financial resources for this project. Thank you so much, Grace. If you join me in thanking Grace and the whole board. You know, retired Senator Poi at the Lam family, long-established families provided significant financial support for this project. New immigrants to British Columbia, the Bai family, a significant contribution. So many other families with smaller contributions, what they can to recognize. This project has pulled together energy and support from across the community, from both diaspora community, but also from people who just know that the story of Chinese Canadians, and particularly in British Columbia, needs to be told. The reason for, I mean, there are a number of politicians that I'd like to recognize in the crowd, but there are two particular government officials, current and former, that I'd like to recognize. First is George Chow. You know, I mean, you guys know George from around the neighborhood, right? George, an incredible MLA, elected to the Legislative Assembly, served on City Council, champion of Chinatown and of the community where he grew up, such deep roots here, and a champion of this museum project for the local community. George, on behalf of the government and on behalf of the NDP caucus, thank you so much for your work on this project. Now, there's a former government official in the crowd. For me, it feels like I've been premier forever, but it's only been 7 months. There was a guy before me who got this ball rolling, who had the vision to sit down with the community and say, this story needs to be told. This is not a story that can be ignored. And during the pandemic, when he was leading the province, and we saw that spike in anti-Asian racism, his vision with the community of the importance of this museum, the importance of telling this story, came to the forefront in a way that we never wanted to imagine, but I'm so glad that the work started then. I want to thank John Horgan, the former Premier of British Columbia, for his vision starting in 2017 from the very beginning of his election. Still trying to get as popular as John Horgan. It's been a real week in Canada in terms of Chinese Canadian history. You know, in our biggest city in Canada, we saw a Chinese Canadian mayor elected for the first time. Incredible. Congratulations, Olivia. And we also saw people gathering in Ottawa to mark the 100th anniversary of the Chinese Exclusion Act. This is the most racist piece of legislation ever passed in our parliament. And we can't forget that that legislation was championed and pushed from the province of British Columbia. And when people gathered there, I wasn't there. Terry Young, I was talking to him, Constable Young, and he said, you know, to be there in that moment was very powerful, very moving. I had the chance to do a quick sneak preview of the exhibit in the museum that you're all going to get a chance to see soon. And you get a sense of the deep history and the hurt and the pain that that legislation caused when it was passed. How do we make sense of this in a country that has this history of that incredibly racist legislation, but also is electing here in Vancouver in Toronto, Chinese Canadians in roles that have never been held before by that community. We need to understand this history. We need to celebrate the amazing achievements of the community. You know, behind us, the Sun Yat-sen Gardens, the visits of Dr. Sun Yat-sen here in the community, the remarkable accomplishments of Canadians of Chinese descent living here in British Columbia from the earliest days of our province, and also the racism and what the community had to overcome here. All of that story is here in the museum for all to see, for all to learn. A physical building, but a symbol of the remarkable endurance, perseverance, and achievements of the Chinese Canadian community, not just in British Columbia, but across Canada, because this is the first Chinese Canadian museum in the entire country. There are two other folks, hard to describe how to recognize these folks. I had the opportunity just before this event started to meet 3 generations of the Yip family. 3 generations. Yip family, can you put your hands up? This is the family. This is the family that, thank you, that lived in this building, that grew up in this building. I said, did you ever imagine that you'd grow up in a museum? And the answer was no, unsurprisingly. But when you go in and you see the classroom that's been preserved up there and you feel the deep history in this building, this is such an important symbol of the Chinese Canadian community in British Columbia. The history of this place, the living community members still contributing, still such a vibrant part of British Columbia. Thank you, Yip family, for being part of this today. And then finally, last but not least, I think that maybe Bob Rennie only made one bad financial deal in real estate in his entire career. And it may be in the deal that he made to contribute this building that he spent years renovating, to restore it to its glory, to preserve that classroom, to make sure that it wasn't torn down, and to protect the oldest building in Chinatown for generations of people to come, not just the building, but then to decide to contribute that building with a significant donation to our shared effort with the museum board to establish this museum. The reason why we were able to work together to get this museum up and running within 6 years, which in museum time is very fast, but in government time is like light speed. The reason why we were able to do that was because of Bob's contribution, because of his vision, because of his generosity. And I wanted to thank Bob Rennie for that remarkable work. And I also want to thank him for lending me a pen right before I came up so I could make some notes. I appreciate that. Congratulations to everybody involved in this. There are so many more people to speak. It's a beautiful sunny day, but not everybody put sunscreen on before they left the house this morning. So I'm going to pass the mic over. But one more time, please join me in thanking every person who made this project possible. It takes a village to make a museum, and everybody in the community came together to make this happen. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Premier Evie.
Thank you. The ministry responsible for the establishment and development of the Chinese Canadian Museum was the BC Ministry of Tourism, Arts, Culture, and Sports. Through the project phase, a working group of community members was established and supported by a secretariat of the ministry.
負責成立同埋發展華裔博物館嘅部門就係卑詩省旅遊藝術文化及運動廳。喺項目嘅執行階段，佢哋成立咗由社區成員組成嘅工作小組，並且由呢個部門嘅秘書處提供支持。負責成立及發展華裔博物館的部門是卑詩省旅遊藝術文化及運動廳。在項目的進行階段，他們成立了一個由社區成員組成的工作小組，並且得到了這個部門的秘書處提供支持。
May I now invite the Honourable Lana Popham, BC Minister of Tourism, Arts, Culture and Sports, to say a few words.
以下我哋有請卑詩省旅遊藝術文化及運動廳長布嫻嚟為我哋致辭。
Thank you so much. I like this music as well. I think it should play every time we take a stage. I am Lana Popham. I'm the Minister of Tourism, Arts, Culture, and Sport, and I am incredibly grateful to be here today on the territory of the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh peoples. Such a pleasure to be with my colleagues today. You'll notice many of them spread out throughout this beautiful crowd. Thank you so much, Grace Wong, and the board of the Chinese Canadian Museum Society, Dr. Melissa Carmen Lee, and the museum staff for your unwavering dedication to establishing Canada's first Chinese Canadian museum. The hours that you put in are just unbelievable. We can't thank you enough. The history and the contributions of British Columbians of Chinese descent are an essential part of our province's success. The importance of the Chinese Canadian community in our collective history cannot be overstated. From the gold rush to building the railway that linked Canada to opening local businesses and more, it's important more than ever that we recognize the contributions of Chinese Canadians. And today is a historic day for Chinese Canadians in British Columbia and, of course, across Canada as we celebrate the opening of Canada's first Chinese Canadian Museum. I'm so excited to be here. I was just in Toronto meeting with other ministers of culture and heritage and tourism, and everybody was talking about today. I said I had to leave early to help go cut a ribbon, and everybody was excited about that, and everyone in Canada is proud of it. What an achievement that we have done here as a collective community. Thank you to everybody. It's so great to see all the work that went into making this vision a reality. And we as a government have been working since 2017 to make sure that we got to this finish line here to have the first of its kind in Canada. Our government, of course, has invested almost $50 million to help establish this beautiful spot. But it took a village, as the Premier said. It really aligns with our desire for a more inclusive and diverse community, and it demonstrates that our province's strength lies in the diversity of its citizens. As arts and culture and tourism is integral to who we are as British Columbians, and a flourishing tourism, arts, and culture industry is important to every part of our province and to our economy. I want to encourage everybody who's out there in the broadcast world. I see so many video cameras here, news teams here that are broadcasting this to the rest of Canada and to the world. I want to encourage everybody to come and visit the Chinese Canadian Museum and explore the paper trail exhibition. This is all documentation, of course, that is from the Chinese Immigration Act of 1923, also known as the Chinese Exclusion Act. This is an example of legislated racism that excluded Chinese people from Canada, and it placed restrictions of people of Chinese descent already living in the country. All Chinese people living in Canada, even those born here, they had to register with the government or risk fines of detainment and deportation. In 24 years, it was in effect. And it's not something that we're proud of here in Canada and in British Columbia, but it's something that we can highlight to make sure that we work together to make British Columbia and Canada a better place for everyone, no matter where you're from. Today is a definite celebration of diversity, of perseverance, and of resilience. Congratulations to everyone who has made this a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The province of British Columbia and the city of Vancouver signed a memorandum of understanding back in 2018 for the establishment of the Chinese Canadian Museum in Vancouver, Chinatown. The museum is so grateful to the City of Vancouver for their recent approved funding of $584,000 toward operating and infrastructure support.
卑詩省同埋溫哥華市喺2018年簽署咗一份諒解備忘錄，喺華埠唐人街建設華裔博物館。博物館對溫哥華市批出嘅584000元運營及基礎設施嘅支持基金表示深深嘅感謝。卑詩省與溫哥華市在2018年簽署了一份諒解備忘錄，在華埠唐人街建設華裔博物館。博物館對溫哥華市最近批准了584000元的雲影和基礎設施的支持資金，表示深深的感謝。
May I now invite His Worship Ken Sim, Mayor of Vancouver, to say a few words.
跟住我哋有請尊貴嘅溫哥華市市長沈官健為我哋致辭。
As much as the music is awesome, like if we could play some Judas Priest here, that would be great. So I do want to start off by acknowledging that we are hosting today's opening on the unceded territories of, oh, sorry, I'm going to get in trouble here. Let me get started again. We are hosting today's event on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations, and I really do want to thank them for their generosity and the hospitality and the love and the care that they show the land that we get to live, work, and play on. And I think it's incredibly important that we're intentional to unlearn the stuff that we have been taught and learn the true history of what's happened on these lands. And if we do that, I think we can build a brighter future together, roaring in the same direction and one of true reconciliation. And so, as was mentioned earlier, the Chinese community has a deep, close bond with the First Nations of these lands. There was a time when, as we know, the Chinese people of Chinese descent did not have rights on these lands. And it was the Musqueam First Nation that stepped up and leased land to people of Chinese descent so they could actually grow crops to feed their families, but also to build a life for them. So these are the stories that need to be told, and they are told in there. So please, unlearn the history of what's happened on these lands. Now, it is an honor to be here today, and I'm here not only as mayor, but I do want to highlight my partners in council, park, and school board. We're all equal partners. We all row in the same direction. Well, maybe not the same direction all the time, but we do row together. Yeah, while we're cracking jokes left, right, and center here now. I do want to acknowledge that I do stand up here and I represent all of our team members. And like I said, it is an honor to be here today on Canada Day Eve, or as I like to call the 156th birthday of the best country on the planet. It's also, unfortunately, the eve of the 100th anniversary of the Chinese Exclusion Act, or the Humiliation Act, as was spoken about. Now, the Chinese Canadian Museum does celebrate the endurance and the triumphs and the incredible contributions of Chinese Canadians to our city, our province, and our country. And the Chinese Canadian Museum stands as a testament to the strength and the resilience of the Chinese community and our heritage and our culture. Now, everything in this building here has incredibly significant meaning. The pictures, the artifacts, the documents, each one of them tells an incredible story about the community. Stories of struggles, stories of perseverance, stories of accomplishments, stories of how individuals of Chinese descent have contributed to the building of our nation. If you go in there, you'll see, one of the many pictures of, Chinese railway workers, people that actually built the railway at half the compensation of other individuals that worked on that railway. And they took the most dangerous jobs. It was incredibly dangerous. And they built that railway. And I can tell you, if they did not, Vancouver and British Columbia and probably half of Western Canada will be singing the Star Spangled Banner right now. So these are the contributions that this community has made to this city, this province, and this country. And look, there's been a lot of talk about how we can decrease racism and acts of racism in our communities. And I can tell you, we can't legislate our way out of this issue. We can't just pass bylaws. We can't create laws, and we can't even enforce them. That's just the reality. But what we can do is we can celebrate the amazing contributions of, the Chinese community and other communities and what they've done to build this great land of ours. And if we do that, racism stems from ignorance. And if we educate people, we will go a long way in making our country a more inclusive, kind, and loving society. Now, I am really excited about this museum. It's actually quite humbling. How many people have been in there so far? Anyone? Yeah, like I knew it was going to be cool. It blew me away. Like, you go in there, and I challenge anyone not to cry when you see some of the things that you will see there. It is so well done, and it's so purposeful. And so I do want to acknowledge that this is going to be great, and it is also another step in revitalizing Chinatown. And so thank you very much. I also do want to highlight, as the people before me did, there are so many people that came together to make this possible. All three levels of government, the business community, residents, and countless nonprofits and benevolent societies. Thank you so much. I do want to acknowledge a couple of more individuals. First of all, Premier Horgan, thank you. And I don't say this as a mayor of Vancouver. I say this as a resident of Vancouver and someone of Chinese descent. What you started, in addition with everyone else, obviously, incredibly important, and it's so meaningful. And, if that's one of your legacies, hell yeah. Absolutely incredible. I also do want to acknowledge and thank a partner in crime, the Premier, David Eby, and the entire provincial government right now. This would not have happened with your incredible contribution. So thank you. Also the federal government, there's Talib there going, what about us? Yeah, okay, we see you as well. Thank you very much. And obviously, Grace and Bob, and there are a lot of families here who've made significant contributions, and a lot of people that donated even like $100. While it may not be a lot, I know it was really meaningful to those individuals, and it's meaningful to this. So thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, and this is very humbling, and it's incredible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. In March of 2020, the Chinese Canadian Museum Society of BC was officially established with a 19-member board of directors and a small team of staff who have been working very hard to bring us this opening day.
喺2020年，BC 省華裔就正式成立啦。
March 2020, and we talked some more. We talked about where will we place this museum. And then in February 2022, with the help of the provincial government and the amazing announcement, we were able to acquire the Wing Sang building with all that Bob brought to the table and what he was willing to partner with us on. So, and then now here we are. And I hope each one of you takes great pride in this, because this museum is for each of you, each of your families, and you know, your ancestors, the generations that will follow you, and this museum is for all Canadians.
Chinese Canadian Museum. Yip Tsang left China, traveled to California to find a better life for himself, but finally, thank goodness, settled in Vancouver. He came with nothing, but a successful merchant and the Canadian Pacific Railway. He built the two-story Wing Sang front building, and you could still see it. The 1880 building was full of people, and full of people. Our daily lives were never chaotic. I managed to arrive at school on time.